Okay, we are live and ready to go. Yes, if we got study guides for everyone. And is that too loud?
It's definitely
A little bit?
a little bit.
How's that? Is that better?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. All right, we will. Yeah, I'm talking. I didn't play our intro, but that's okay. We are on part number 3 for our hymn histories. So this evening, excuse me, I'm sorry. My voice is not really like I'd like for it to be. So we're going to look at Martin Luther this evening. Martin Luther was not only considered to be a radical theologian, he was also a very talented songwriter. And he wrote not only lyrics, but also the music for his songs. So in the last program, we looked at the background and the history and the development of hymns. So tonight, I want to consider some of the greatest hymnists that time has revealed. And these two we're looking at this evening are just the beginning. All right, these hymnists, excuse me, are very well known, to us anyway, because of the hymns that they wrote. Now, earlier we looked at the history and the development of hymns, but in these beginning programs, we want to look at the hymnists first, the songwriters, and then we'll consider the hymns that they wrote. And then later, I want to look at some of the most popular hymns that are known to us, and then look at the background of the writers and some of the circumstances that prevailed when the hymns were written. There are some awesome stories behind many of the hymns that we sing today. And so we want to look at those stories. And when possible, within copyright restraints, we'll listen to the songs being sung and played. So we'll get right on into Martin Luther. Martin Luther was born in 1483, and he died in 1546. The best known hymns that were written by him include "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." That one we are familiar with. It's in our hymnal. And in fact, I had a note somewhere about the page of the hymnal. I guess it's over there on the cart where the study guides are. But that one is in our hymnal, and we're going to listen to that, a very special rendition of that this evening. And I'll tell you why it's really special a little later. Then "Out of the Depths I Cry to You" is another one. Never heard of that one before. "From Heaven Above to Earth I Come." So there's only 3 that I was able to find that Martin Luther wrote. And of course, the first one is the one that's well known to us today and is in our hymnal. And yes, page 51. And there are other hymnals, of course, that it's in. I think it may even be in the red ABA hymnal that we have as well. Martin Luther was born in Eilsben, Germany. I probably did not say that according to German, but Eisleben. Okay, thank you. He received his master's degree in 1505, and then he enrolled in law school. On July the 17th, 1505, he left law school to become an Augustinian monk. So he became a priest, a Roman Catholic priest. He attributed this decision to being nearly struck by lightning on July the 2nd in 1505. Because of this incident, he became terrified of death and divine judgment. So in 1507, he was ordained to the priesthood. In 1508, he was teaching theology at the University of Wittenberg. In 1512, he was awarded a Doctor of Theology degree. From 1510 to 1520, he lectured on the Psalms, Hebrews, Romans, and Galatians. He became convinced that the Roman Catholic Church, shortened to RCC, was corrupt and had lost sight of the central truths of Christianity. He felt that the most important RCC error was on the doctrine of justification. His view was that salvation is a gift of God's grace, attainable only through faith in Jesus Christ. Now, I wish he would have gone that far with the rest of his doctrines. He just didn't go far enough to get away from the Catholic Church. And of course, the Lutheran Church is named after him. Justification was entirely the work of God, unlike the RCC view that the righteous acts of believers are performed in cooperation with God. In other words, the Roman Catholic Church didn't think that, I guess God was strong enough and able to bring about justification, so he had to have a little help, according to the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church theology stated that faith alone could not justify man. Man must be active in charity and good works for this to happen. These good works could be obtained by donating money to the church through the sale of indulgences. And this really became a tool, a weapon over the heads of members of the Roman Catholic Church. Which reminds me of a funny I heard one time. Little boy's daddy died, went to purgatory. So the little boy went to the priest and he said, what do I need to do to get my daddy out of purgatory? Well, the priest told him, he said, well, you bring X number of dollars here and we'll see about getting him out. So the little boy worked and slaved away and got the money and gave it to the priest, and the priest said, well, he said, this will get him part of the way out. Said he's not completely out yet. So if you bring in a little bit more money, we'll see what happens. And so the little boy went and saved and worked his fingers to the bone and got the amount of money that the priest had said. So he took it to the priest, and the priest said, well, this gets him almost out. Said he's up to his knees now. The little boy said, oh, well, said, Daddy's a big, strong man. He can jump the rest of the way out. So the sale of indulgences really became a big thing in the Roman Catholic Church. But the money was then used to rebuild St. Peter's Basilica. Nothing like putting two words together, is there? St. Peter's Basilica. Luther protested the sale of indulgences. The sale of indulgences was nothing more than works for salvation. On October the 31st in 1517, he wrote a letter and included what was later known as the 95 Theses. The 95 Theses. He nailed it to the door of a cathedral. I can't remember. Brother Bernie might remember where that was. But anyway, he nailed it to the door, supposedly, legend says. But he sent his, he sent them his 95 Theses. And this became a catalyst for the Protestant Reformation. With the help of the printing press, the 95 Theses spread through Germany within 2 weeks. Now imagine that. This is in the 1500s. And his thesis being spread throughout the entire nation of Germany in 2 weeks, that's pretty astounding. And then throughout Europe within 2 months, and that's even more astounding. Well, the Catholic hierarchy didn't like that too well. Roman Catholic Church responded on June the 15th in 1520 by warning Luther to recant the 95 Theses within 60 days, or he would risk excommunication. In other words, they would kick him out of the Catholic Church. Of course, we know that he refused to do so. So, on January the 3rd in 1521, Martin Luther was excommunicated from the Roman Catholic Church. Say that again, brother.
Okay. We were talking about this, how many in what we call quote-unquote Christianity
Correct.
have no idea what the true faith is. And here is this young man that writes a thesis from what he found out from the Bible, and it didn't set well with the Catholic Church.
That's correct. And so he was excommunicated and started his own. One of the most important benefits of the Reformation movement was the rediscovery of congregational singing. Congregational singing. Luther is to have said, I wish to compose sacred hymns so that the word of God may dwell among the people also by means of songs. He also said, I would allow no man to preach or teach God's people without a proper knowledge of the use and power of sacred song. I commend him for that. His most well-known hymn is "A Mighty Fortress is Our God." It's believed to have been written between 1527 and 1529, and it's based on Psalm 46. So Psalm 46, 1, to the chief musician for the sons of Korah, a song upon Alamoth. God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea. Though the waters therefore roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with the swelling thereof. Now, I'll pause here just a minute. You see that next word, Selah? That is not spoken, unless maybe you're listening to a narration of it, and then you might want to put it in there just for the sake of people knowing it's there. But it carries with it the same connotation as a musical rest. There's a pause. So this tells me that this psalm was written either to be sung or chanted. And they would pause right at the end of verse number 3. There is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God shall help her, and that right early. The heathen raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, the earth melted. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. And then there's another pause. Come, behold the works of the Lord, what desolations he hath made in the earth. He maketh wars to cease unto the end of the earth. He breaketh the bow, and cutteth the spear in sunder. He burneth the chariot in the fire. Be still, and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the heathen. I will be exalted in the earth. Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. And then we have another pause, and that's the end. It's been called, the song, "A Mighty Fortress is Our God," has been called the battle hymn of the Reformation. There are several theories concerning its origin. One, that it was sung by Luther and his companions as they went to the Diet of Worms. Now, this Diet of Worms is not a dinner of worms that they're going to. This was a meeting called the Diet of Worms. Where they got those words, I have no idea. But us today, that sure doesn't sound very, that doesn't sound too appealing, does it? 2, it was a tribute to a friend who was executed as a Protestant martyr. And 3, it was sung by German Lutheran princes as they went to the Diet, at which the Augsburg Confession was present. And 4, it was composed in connection with German Lutheran princes' protest to Charles V, who wanted to enforce the Edict of Worms. This edict would have been a proclamation or a law, I guess you would say, that was made at the Diet of Worms. We really do not know which of these, if any, are correct. There have been no less than 60 translations into English alone, in addition to other languages. The most popular English version was translated by Frederick H. Hedge in 1853. Now, I've changed this to what is on the slide. Instead, I think I have it correctly in your notes. This is the recording that we're about to listen to is not from Charity Ministries and the congregational singing a cappella. It is from I forgot the exact a man by the name of Wesley, and he had how many 176 singers and musicians, all around, scattered from around to the world. He put them all together with the music and the singing. And I tell you, it is excellent. You can use that information that you have right there, and if you so decide, you can go on YouTube and you can see it for yourself, and that's where that I got this. So we'll listen to this now. Amen. Oop, I don't want you yet. Just be quiet. Now, I'm sure that it probably was not sung that way in Martin Luther's time. Even some of the instruments which were used on this song was not even thought of or invented back at that time. But the words are the words of Martin Luther. But I was not able to find, I thought that Charity Ministries had a recording of it, and I'm pretty sure they did because I heard it one time, but I could not re-find it again. So anyway, I went with this one because I tell you, it's becoming one of my favorites. All right, now let's go to a little different era of songwriting. Let's come all the way up now to the 19th century. George Bennard was born February the 4th in 1873 in Youngstown, Ohio. Although he was born in Ohio, he was raised in Iowa. He was one of 6 children. When George was 16, his father died. After his mother's death, George supported his mother and his sisters as a miner. After his father, what did I say? Oh, okay, his father's death. Yeah, see, I can't read either. You see that? Now, a miner, that's not M-I-N-O-R, that's a, I don't know, it doesn't say what kind of miner, probably a coal miner, more than likely. Anyway, very difficult and hard work for a young man, a teenager. He became known as a persuasive speaker, sharp dresser, yet humble and sincere. At the age of 24, he became a minister in the Salvation Army. By 1898, he had conducted revival meetings throughout the Midwest, later transferring to New York. In 1910, he resigned from the Salvation Army to go out on his own as an evangelist. He was at this point in his life, he began composing hymns. He played the guitar, but not the piano. He finally settled in Albion, Michigan, and opened his own hymn publishing company. When he died in 1958, it is said that his funeral was attended by 400 people. At his funeral, an organ rendition of The Old Rugged Cross was played. George Bennard wrote around 350 hymns. One has become very popular, still sung in churches today in the 21st century. That song is The Old Rugged Cross. The song was first sung at the First Methodist Episcopal Church in Pokagon, Michigan in 1913. When I see that Methodist Episcopal put together, I wonder what in the world do these people believe anyway? The church became known as the original Old Rugged Cross Church. The hymn was popularized by the evangelist Billy Sunday with his nationally broadcasted radio show. By 1939, 15 million copies of the hymn had been sold. Bennard said on writing this hymn, "I seemed to have a vision. I saw Christ and the cross inseparable. He also said, the inspiration came to me one day in 1913 when I was staying in Albion, Michigan. I began to compose the Old Rugged Cross, or to write the Old Rugged Cross. I composed the melody first. The words that I first wrote were imperfect. The words of the finished hymn were put into my heart in answer for my own need. The melody for the hymn came easily, but he labored over the words. The words came weeks later. He said, I sat down and immediately was able to rewrite the stanza of the song without so much as one word failing to fall into place. I called in my wife, he said, took out my guitar, and sang the completed song to her. She was thrilled. The Old Rugged Cross. We're going to listen to this hymn now that's sung and recorded by the Temple Baptist Church in Powell, Tennessee. Well, I never get tired of hearing that old song sung. And I would not be surprised that it's pretty close to what George Bennett wrote, how he wrote it. I have not been able to find so far any of the other 349 hymns that he has written. We may have some more in our hymn book, I'm not really sure. But this one was the most famous, if you will, the most popular song that he wrote. And even today, almost 100 years since he wrote it, it is still very popular and good to listen to. Well, let me get where I need to be here. Let's close with this poem again. The Power of a Christian Song. There's something about a fine old hymn that can stir the heart of a man, that can reach to the goal of his inmost soul, such as no mere preaching can. It's more than the tune of the song he sings, but it's more than the poet's rhyme. It's the Spirit of God working through these things that gives them their power sublime. So we thank Thee, Lord, for the fine old hymns. May we use them again and again as we seek to save from a hopeless grave the souls of our fellow men. Brother Bernie, would you dismiss us, please, sir?
You've been listening to the live broadcast of the Wednesday evening Bible study of the Mayfield Drive Baptist Church in Smyrna, Tennessee. We invite you to tune in at the same time next Wednesday evening for another live broadcast of the Wednesday evening Bible study. We would love to see your comments regarding this broadcast. You may email us at imbr@imbmpodcast.com. That's imbr@imbmpodcasts.com. Or you may write to us at International Missionary Baptist Radio, P.O. Box 1676, Smyrna, Tennessee 37167. That's International Missionary Baptist Radio, P.O. Box 1676, Smyrna, Tennessee 37167. Thank you for listening, and may you have a blessed day.